Well, guys, it finally happened. So I got muted. My role here is muted. um, so I, if you don't know what being muted is, it doesn't mean that you're banned. You just can't ever talk until they unmute you, which they're not going to unmute me, because they do have timeouts. And I've been timeouted a couple of times. And where it says done reading, check out other channels, it would say you are timed out for X amount of days, and this is the remaining countdown timer. And then you can start talking again. And it's literally like putting you in the corner for a couple of days to think about what you've done. And then you can, obviously, it'll become like a regular chat channel or a chat box. And so when you're muted, every single time you go into a place where you could post or where you could talk, you are instead, it just says done reading. Would you like to check out other channels? And so you can just never talk again. But that doesn't mean that you're banned, because I believe that if they banned you, then you wouldn't even be able to see the channel at all. Not that somebody couldn't just make another account. And if I really cared enough about it, I could make another account. That is totally an option. But I don't care enough. And it's probably for the best. And you know what? I liken this unto the fact that I am in a Greek clan. I don't know if you've noticed this in my past videos, whenever I go in my clan for, just switching tabs or something. But I am currently in a Greek clan, and most people, I would say 90% of the people, don't speak English. There are some people that do, but those people, clans are just stupid anyway, just in general. But most people in this clan speak Greek. Now, I have been in a large quantity of clans. So, every so often you'll get, 11, right? Or does that say Elven? I don't know. Sometimes you'll get somebody that just, pops in and says something in English. Oh, here we go. The witch pawn gives damage to the robot. More precisely, it gives the opportunity for damage to the robot pawn. Every so often you'll get somebody who speaks English or who just randomly talks in English. But it is a Greek-based clan. Why am I in a Greek-based clan, and why is it the best for me? Because I've been in a lot of clans. I've been obviously in very many English-speaking clans up until this point. I tried for, I don't know, 3 months maybe, to start my own clan based on followers that followed me on here. And what I found is that I cannot shut up about pointing out stupid things that people say. It's why I have based my channel the way that it is. If you haven't guessed already, this is a rant video. Actually, I haven't done a lot of gameplay videos because there's not a lot of exciting gameplay in this game right now. It's just a big let's shit on this game, party. But I tried being in regular clans, and I can't stop myself whenever somebody says something stupid. And here, this is another one of my come for the Rush Royale, stay for the life lessons. Even though this isn't really a life lesson, it's something. Background history on myself. When I grew up as a single child for a very large portion of my life with a single parent. So it was just me and my mom, and I kept a journal at a certain point. When it became very obvious, I kept a journal specifically about what my mom yelled at me for today. Because every day, it was it got to the point where it was so consistent that I started wanting to just jokingly keep a log about everything, that my mom yelled at me about. Because it was just something different, or maybe it was the same thing, or, it was anything. It was anything and everything. And it was always something. And when my mom met my stepdad, they eventually had my stepsister. And then that didn't stop. It just continued. But like for the most part, when my mom was just a single parent, just me and her, she would yell at me every single day. Now, some of the things were justified, I suppose. Some of the things were not justified. And the thing about it was, no matter how much I thought I was correct, she was always more correct. And so like, you know, if I would have to build an argument, right? That's what you do in these situations. You build an argument. And in that argument, I'm not wrong for this, you know, kind of argument. She would counter argument and be like, yeah, this is why you're wrong about this. And then I would be like, okay, well, this is why I'm not wrong about this. And she would be like, okay, well, why don't you live? She would be like, well, why don't you live somewhere else? And, you know, like, you can just be homeless. And I'm like, all right, well, that's kind of, I can't really say anything about that. So I guess I am wrong. And that lasted for my entire childhood. You know, up until the moment that I just left the house, like as a, I don't know, high school, or like when I got out of high school, and I was able to just live somewhere else. I've stated, like, in my own personal life that if my mom ever died, I would not go to her funeral, and that stays true for till today. I have no contact with my family at all, and all this to say that growing up in a world where you have to say perfect things, you have to have a perfect argument, or else, you know, your mom is going to have a more perfect argument. And even if you do have a perfect argument, she's going to have a more perfect argument and you're just going to lose anyway. Growing up in that and having to like choose every single one of my words very, very carefully made me realize as a grown-up, after I've left that situation, how much people just say nothing, how much people just talk just to talk. And they always say, you know, that you're going to grow up to become your parents. And, you know, there's a part of me that's like, no, I'm not going to become my parent. And yeah, I kind of did. In this way, I kind of did. And I did in the sense that when I see people say stupid things like, this game is so pay to win, this game is so unfair, you know, like when I hear people say things just as buzzwords and not as backed up statements, like when you question them on that, they don't have a way to argue it. They're just like, this greedy company and their greedy practices. And I'm just like, well, what's greedy about the company? Everything is pay for this, pay for that. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, like, it's a business, you know, it like, how do you want them to sustain themselves? If you don't pay for anything and that's your choice and you don't have to, but you can't complain about not gaining things if you don't pay for anything. That's how everything works. That's how life works. You can't say, you know, like, that movie theaters are greedy because a price for the movie ticket is $20. If that is, you know, expensive for you, then don't go, right? Nobody is forcing you to buy a Lamborghini, right? You can't go to the Lamborghini store and and say like, your Lamborghini prices are too expensive. You only care about money. It's like, yeah, that's just how expensive it is. If you don't want that, you can ride a skateboard. That's fine. Nobody is saying you can't ride a bike. You know, if you can't go to NASA and say your rocket ship is too expensive. All you care about is money. And yeah, that's how expensive it is. There are other games. You can play other games, right? And that's the thing that I encounter a lot in this game. Just being in chat channels, being in a clan, right? Being on the Discord where it's just a bunch of people like saying stupid shit like that. Saying things that are inflammatory about, you know, the game, But then you also have developers saying inflammatory things about the game, right? The game, the moderators in the game, they constantly say the same things. And I don't think people notice it because, again, people don't analyze things as much as I do. People just want to complain and then have somebody else say, I agree with you. This game is pay to win. I agree with you too. This game is pay to win with those greedy developers and their greedy game, and all they care about is money. I agree with that. This game is greedy, and those developers do only care about money. Like, that's all that they want to hear. They don't want to hear some counter argument about how it's really not. Or if it is, and maybe it is, if it is, it's their right to do so. And it's your right to not play the game. Or it's your right to not pay the money. And it's like, if you want to complain about how expensive it is and not pay the money and still play the game and then just complain about how expensive it is, that would be like hanging around a Lamborghini store complaining about how expensive the price of that car is compared to a Toyota Camry, right? Yeah, you can complain, why is this car not $30,000 and why is it $200,000. You could complain there, but then just go somewhere else. They're not going to change that. That's not something that they're going to change. Now, this is the kind of argument that I would get into with people, right? And then that person would find me annoying, right? And in clans, that would happen. And all of a sudden, I would be the bad guy for counter-argumenting somebody's just random, whatever statement that they had no thought process of. Like, that they don't have a real counter-argument. It's just, I want to be angry about this thing just to be angry about it, but I have no backup. I just want to say shitty things. I guess if I was, in the political world, right? People who are like, I don't want these pronouns. The gay people are, they're forcing their lifestyle on me. And then they have no backup for that. They just want to say that. President Obama isn't even an American citizen. He shouldn't have even been president. People who will say something like that, but then not have any backup for any of their things. They just hear a buzzword. Red Pill podcasts do that as well in the relationship world. Like, oh, a girl with a high body count, like, she's a slut, things like that. But then they have no backup to base that around. It's just a buzz phrase that incites anger. Like, this game is pay to win. Like, it's not, you don't need, the person doesn't feel like they need a backup. They just want to say it, and then it's just true because they said it. Saying greedy developers, but then they don't have any backup to that, or they don't understand the concept of how a business works. And those people, I have taken it upon myself to be like my mom and be like, I'm gonna argue this with you, because you're wrong, and because you have no backup, and I know that you have no backup to substantiate your claim. And in that way, I became my mom. I recognize this, and it's kind of annoying to me, but it's also just something that I can't escape. I can't hear something that is just blatantly wrong and then just let it go. I have to make that person realize that they're wrong for saying what they're saying. And if it's a feeling, then that's your own feeling, I suppose. But they try to say it as fact. And that's the difference. You can say, I think that the practices of the company as of late are greedy. And that they could change this thing and, they could make things cheaper. But they could make things more accessible. You can give more avenues of legendary hero shards. You could make legendary hero shards somewhat attainable, and you don't have to lock it behind a paywall. You can make it like an event unit where an event unit is really expensive when it comes out, but over the course of time, you have cheaper avenues of ways to buy it. Whereas legendary heroes are locked behind a, at minimum, $50 10 fragment paywall. And that $50 is kind of insane. And so if you made it somewhat cheaper, or if you gave access to maybe 10 legendary hero shards per season, that would be something. You could do that, or 5 pick your own legendary hero shards in a season pass. You could do that. There are things that you could do in order for you to obtain money as a company, but also give back to the people that are willing to pay for your product. Oh no, it's just a greedy company and their greedy practices, and you're so pay to win. And you're like, this isn't a conversation. You just want to complain. You can say things. I'm not saying you can't say anything bad about the company, but in that same vein, I will also do that to the company. And so I don't know if you've ever noticed, but in the Rush Royale Discord, there are moderators that actively talk to the community. And what they say are basically the same things. We'll let you know as soon as we know it's available. We'll thank you for your concern. We'll talk to the dev team. And, it's very complex, and there are a lot of factors that go into it. And so we can't really explain that because we don't have the numbers. And all 3 of those are very dismissive. They're not answers. They just pretend to be answers. They're kind of answers. It would be like if you asked your friend if they wanted to hang out on Tuesday, and it is Monday. And they said, you know what? I'll let you know. I'll let you know soon. And you're like, oh, okay. Well, it's tomorrow. So when will you let me know? Oh, you know what? I'll let you know. As soon as I know, I'll let you know. And then now it's Tuesday. And, it's not something that was early in the morning. It was something at night, right? So, at night, it was like 8 o'clock at night, right? It was you're going to buy tickets to go see a movie at 8 o'clock the next day, right? And now it's that morning. And you text your friend and they're like, hey, so you're like, hey, so, couple hours, have you thought about like whether or not you want to go? I need to buy the tickets. And they're like, oh, you know what? I'm doing something right now, but I'll get back to you. It's certainly an answer. It's not really an answer, but it is kind of an answer. And that's what the developers do. And they just do that forever. I don't know if you've noticed that, but maybe you will now if you join the Discord. That's all they do. So, Dr. Agon said, it's complex balance adjustment with the addition of a new super quest mechanic that will let you earn bells and compasses for completing gameplay challenges. So, somebody was like, oh, wait, is this not it? Oh, okay, no, this is it. Okay. I got into this like conversation with Limdol, who's on here very often, complains about everything, right? And I said that it's actually very complicated. There's a lot of complicated numerical systems in place. And he said, no, it's not that complicated. It's a game with a rather simple in-game economy, and the customers, we can perfectly understand what is going on. And so I said, it's actually very complicated. Money is not a factor. There are a lot of factors that go into it. Money is definitely not a factor that affects. I thought that he would get that I was joking in this like comment. There are plenty of other very complicated factors. I could explain them, but it's very complicated. He said, yes, please explain to us poor peasants. It's a money factor. Everything is a money factor. It's a game. That's all. So I was like, oh, there we go. I was like, oh, you wouldn't understand the complex balancing that goes on behind this. Like, I was treating him like I was a developer of this game, and he was believing that I knew anything, beyond what this was. You wouldn't understand the complex balancing that goes on behind the scenes. The dev team works very hard at a lot of complex systems that would simply take a long time to explain. It's all about balancing the game for everybody so that everything is fair for a large number of players. And he said, I think you need to drop urgently your superiority complex. Saying that something so simple as a game is too complex for you to explain makes you a fool. And so somebody else jumped in and said, think he's just trying to be sarcastic. And I said, what does sarcastic mean? And this is just my humor. This is how I make people feel stupid about something stupid that they're saying. And it's just by like reiterating what they're doing over and over until it sounds really, really stupid. And just like deep diving into like one thing, right? And most people would just drop any of this. They would just be like, this is all dumb. But this is like entertaining for me. And I've done this a lot. I've done this in multiple clans that I've been in. And it's just something that I can't escape as a person, growing up in the situation that I did, and now having this burden on me, having this like I know that I'm right because I don't say a lot of things, that I think about all the things that I say. And because at a young age, I was forced to think about everything that I would ever say. And I would just, that's all I did. All I could ever do, knowing that my mom was going to yell at me, was figure out how to argue back at her and say perfect things. Because if I didn't say perfect things, then I would just automatically lose whatever the argument was. In the same way that these people are losing arguments that they have no base for. If my mom said, like, you didn't take out the trash yesterday, right? I don't know. I'm just making something up. You didn't take out the trash yesterday, and, the trash is still here, and I told you to take out the trash. And I said, you're just a bad mother. You don't know about anything. That's how stupid you sound, right? That's not an argument. That's an automatic, like, you're just making the thing something else, and you have already lost. Saying that the game is pay to win, or that the game is greedy, or that the developers are greedy, or all they care about is money, that's not an argument. You're just making you're making a broad statement about nothing, right? You have to minimize that. You have to be specific about what is bad. So, like, for instance, if that was the argument, I could be like, well, I was doing a bunch of other things. I was doing all the other chores that you told me to do. At which point she would probably say, oh, so you didn't have the 2 seconds that it would take to take out the trash? And I would say, I don't know. Like, but I can already, that's also my thing. I can already hear what somebody is going to say to a thing that I'm going to argue. And I can feasibly predict, like, if I say this, they're probably going to say this. At best, they're probably going to say this. And if they say that, what am I going to say? And that's how far ahead I had to like think. And that's how specific with, like, my phrasing and, the word choice that I needed to be in order to even have a chance at getting my mom to say that she was wrong. And the reality was she was never wrong. Because even if she was wrong, and even if I argued to the last breath, she would be like, well, you live on the street then, and you don't have to live here. I don't have to feed you. I don't have to, this is all, I have all the power here, and I don't need to do anything for you. Go live on the street then. At which point, what am I going to argue to that? Like, what am I going to say? And so then I would just be like, all right, well, I guess I'm just a shitty kid. I guess I'm just a terrible, terrible person. And I lived with that for years of my life. And now as a grown-up, I do that to other people. Because a lot of people are not, they don't think about what they say. They just say things. They just say things as inflammatory statements. And so I go into this mode every time I see this. In the Discord, in chat channels, I could find something for you. You want me to just like, I didn't plan this out. Sometimes I just like go through this and I'm just like, I just find somebody. Oh, I also hate spelling mistakes. Is it me or does the virus from Virus Boss not spread to Unites anymore? Like it only seemed to infect 3 units and it didn't spread. Unites. I would just like comment on that, like something stupid. Like, what are they uniting? Actually, it's probably easier if I go into an actual like news thing because everything that they post is terrible. Collecting data on a unit does take a while. I don't have any shareable numbers on the Twins win pick rate at the moment, so I can't really give any meaningful comments just yet. But rest assured that keeping all Pantheon units in balance is one of our priority tasks. He's trying to say that he doesn't know if Twins is good. Because he doesn't have the numbers of the win rate of a Twins. And he's pretty sure that all of the Pantheon units should be balanced, and if they are not balanced, there will be a balance patch soon. It's just, can you be more transparent in the future coming updates about what units you plan to give talents? We make sure to share that kind of info as soon as we have it. You ain't gonna miss it when it happens. Do you have plans for the next unit? Nothing. Because they can't tell you. Because Dr. Aegon is not a developer of this game. He doesn't have any actual information. He has as much information, maybe a little bit more, than what you currently do right now. Maybe a little bit more. And that's it. He knows what is in this patch and not anything beyond that. And so if you're asking him, like he knows everything about the you know, like what this game and, you know, all the future developments, he has to say, oh, you know, like we're really excited about like the upcoming updates and, you know, just a bunch of bullshit. Like, we're really excited about the upcoming updates and we have a lot of fun plans coming up for the new year. And, you know, like, oh, you guys are going to be so excited about everything. It's going to be so cool. And you guys are going to love Rush Royale. I'm very excited for all the new upcoming changes. And, you know, you're like, what are the changes? And, you know, like I just told you, he doesn't know anything. It's like, oh, well, you know, as soon as we know, we'll let you know. You know, just going back to that, you know, when are you going to go see the movies with your friend? We'll let you know. As soon as I know, I'll let you know. just like an answer that's not really an answer because he doesn't know. Because there is a solid answer you can give. And the answer is, I don't know. I'm not part of that. That's the solid answer that he could give is that. But if you start to question how much knowledge he knows, then that defeats the illusion that he knows everything. And he is in the moderator because as the only person you can talk to he's supposed to be looked at as if he's everything. Kind of like the wizard in The Wizard of Oz. And that's kind of how I've described this company to a lot of just people in messages. This company feels very Wizard of Oz. I'm not even sure if there is a dev team or if it's just, the great and powerful Oz, I don't even know if that's just the excuse that they use. Because even as a content creator, I never got to talk to anybody beyond a Dr. Aegon type person. People who are subsidiaries of subsidiaries. It's kind of like if you wanted to talk to the CEO of a company and you couldn't even talk to the manager of that company or an employee, and you instead had to talk to the janitor of that company who said, "Oh, yes, I will let the manager know." And the manager didn't matter either, because what you really want to talk to is the CEO of the company to make an actual change, because none of these people have actual power to make change. And that's who that's who you're talking to. You're talking to the janitor of Rush Royale. I just want you to know that. You're talking to the janitor of Rush Royale. You're talking to somebody who has zero power and is just a face of someone to say, "Yes, I have heard your complaint. I will pass that on to the dev team." The fact that they have to say, "I will pass that on to the dev team," means that they don't matter. Let me say that again. The fact that they have to pass it on to the dev team means that that person doesn't matter. If you go to a restaurant and your server, and you tell the server, your prices are too expensive, and I, as a server who am not in charge of prices, say, "Oh, thank you for, letting me know. I'm going to pass that on to my manager." I can either pass that on to my manager or just not. And if you as a customer are like, "Oh, thank you. Thank you. This guy gets it. He's going to pass it on to his manager." I could, or I could just, not. It doesn't really matter. And if you don't understand that because I said that, I don't really have power. And if you say to me, "No, let me talk to your manager," and I say, "Oh, no. You can't do that. You can talk to me, and I will pass that on to my manager." Right? That is how much trust you have in a Dr. Aegon, in a moderator, in any of these. That is how much trust you are putting into this person to give you actual answers, to make actual change. They don't have the ability to make change. They are simply there as a middleman to placate you as a person in this chat. And the only reason why this chat even exists is so that they can say, "Yes, we listen to the community." Because if this didn't exist, you could actually say that, Rush Royale doesn't care about anybody's comments. But because this exists, they're like, "Yeah, we let people talk. And, we have a person. We have a person here that says, 'Oh, you think our prices are too expensive? Oh, yeah, let me tell my manager. I'll be right back. I'll let you know as soon as I know that, I let my manager know about, your complaint about the prices, and, we'll see what we can do about that soon. We'll be sure to change that. You come back and visit us. You come back and eat at our restaurant. I'm sorry you don't like our prices, that we just did a price increase. And, food prices are going up, and, rent is going up, and, all the prices everywhere are going up. This is just how it is." And you're like, "You're just a greedy company." You're just a pay-to-win restaurant. So what I'm trying to say is I equally shit on, people as much as I equally shit on Rush Royale. And it's probably for the best. that I was muted. It's probably for the best that I'm in a Greek clan and can't understand anything anybody says. Because if I could, I would just point out how things that people say are dumb. Because most people don't think. And I don't know if you're that kind of person. If you're the kind of person that doesn't analyze things and, like you are one of those kinds of people. I mean, like, I think if you've listened to this for 35 minutes, if you're still here and you're still listening to this 35 minutes later, I think you like to analyze things. Anybody who, like people who don't analyze things, who just want to see me play Rush Royale and, like Momo Royale and like every other YouTube channel, they just want to see a game. They just want to see, me playing a game. Those people that don't analyze things, those people don't care. But I think if you've sat through this for 35 minutes, you care and you analyze things and you think about things. And just understand that there are a lot of people that just say things just to say things. And it's kind of like, you know what it's kind of like? Do you have like friends that just talk about nothing? Just like, like, I don't know, coworkers or friends at school, and they just have to talk about things no matter what it is. And it's not important or anything. And it's not, they just have, it feels like they just have to say something just to say something. Oh, hey, yesterday I woke up and, like I got a piece of toast and I put some jelly on that toast. And, like when I left for school, like I forgot to tie my shoe and I had to tie my shoe. And when I bent down to tie my shoe, I noticed that there was a rock in my shoe and I had to take out the rock that was in my shoe. And, and then I had to tie my shoe, but when I was tying my shoe, there was a knot in it, and I had to take out the knot first, and it was really annoying. I almost cut the shoelace because it was so annoying, and like the shoe, and then I put on the shoes, and I tied the laces, and then I got up, and then when I was leaving the door, I accidentally like dropped my key, and that was so annoying because I was already late for school, so dropping the key to it's just people that are like this, and you're just like, what are you talking? What is this? Is this going somewhere? Is this anything? And I find that whenever I talk, it's because I want to say something. Like I talk a lot in videos, obviously. And it's because I want to say something. Something that's important or something that's been in my mind for a while. And obviously, this has been in my mind for a while. It's just like, when am I going to get muted? When am I going to get banned from this like subreddit or this Discord channel? When am I going to get banned from this Discord channel? And like the idea that I've like left so many clans and now I'm currently in a Greek clan. What I'm saying is like, it's probably for the best for both, the Discord and my clan that I can't talk because I am obsessed with figuring out flaws. It's all I do. I just, like when I started my job as a server at my restaurant, I like going into places and finding flaws, like figuring out what could be done to be better. People like don't care about minuscule things like that. People don't like read a Dr. Agon, comment as a, person that is high up, and they don't analyze why that person is saying what they're saying. They just take it at face value. We make sure to share that kind of info as soon as we have it. You ain't gonna miss it when it happens. People will just take that at face value and be like, oh, thank you. Make sure to DM me as soon as you know that info. Like people will just take that at face value and not analyze how stupid that sounds. And how shitty it is that the Rush Royale team as a whole operate like this. Why there's a YouTube manager, a YouTube community manager who just responds the same thing to every single comment. Thanks for your comment. We'll pass it on to the dev team. Why that became like the biggest joke to me. That's all I do. I just point out flaws like that. I invest into something, and when I figure out like how the operation works, I'm just like, this is wrong. This part of this operation is not good. And most of the time, the people that are at the high end of whatever the operation is like, well, we're not going to change it. And I'm like, why? And they're like, because. And I'm like, okay. And that's kind of what it is here. I don't have an end to this argument or anything. It's just the answer is because. I think that's going to be the title of this video. Because ultimately, that's what this game is. That's what all of your complaints lead to. All roads lead to because. It is not your game. It is Rush Royale's game. It is not my Discord. It is not my Discord to change public opinion of, the Rush Royale company. It's their Rush Royale Discord. And they want to do whatever they want to do because the prices are what they are because. Adding a legendary hero to the game, they're doing it because. Adding event units every month, they're doing it because. Not adding talents to commons, rares, and epics, they're doing that because. Because it's their game. They don't need another reason beyond that. It's actually actually a very complex series of reasons. It's actually really complicated, and you really wouldn't get it